Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Parolees in New York could soon see their voting rights restored. This comes after the state assembly passed a bill that would allow parolees to take part in future elections. Matt Kleindinst spoke with two lawmakers about the bill and joins us from Corning.
Good evening, Scott. One lawmaker I spoke to says the bill will help with rehabilitation for parolees, while another one said this bill has misplaced priorities. On Wednesday, the New York Assembly passed a bill that would restore the voting rights for people on parole. According to the Department of Corrections, this would affect just under 32,000 New Yorkers.
This is actually, to me, the definition of public safety.
Assemblywoman Anna Kells leans on her background in public health while supporting the bill, saying that voting rights can reduce the risk for recidivism.
There has been studies that have shown that the ability to vote itself helps the reintegration process for an individual.
Local Representative Phil Palmisano argues against the measure, saying that inmates that are granted parole still haven't fully paid their debts to society.
For example, if someone is sentenced to 15 to 25 years, say they serve 15 years and then are released and on parole they'd be on parole for another 10 years. That additional 10 years is part of their sentence.
Palmisano also says the bill doesn't consider violent crimes committed by parolees.
This bill does not take into account the seriousness or heinousness of the crime. If there are different levels, if we're talking about people who had lower level offenses, that's one thing. Some of these individuals, quite frankly, shouldn't even be released from prison. They should be serving the rest of their life in prison.
That is not germane to what this bill is. This bill is for those people who have been evaluated by the corrections process. They have been identified as someone who has been rehabilitated to the point that they have deemed it appropriate for them to be paroled.
The bill heads to Governor Cuomo's desk, where he has 10 days to either sign or veto the measure. Matt Kleindinst, Big Fox, WYDC in Corning.
New York is taking a big step in vaccinating the city's residents. Mayor Bill de Blasio says people no longer need appointments to get shots. It also no longer matters what part of the city they live in. Previously, some vaccination sites only gave shots to residents in neighborhoods nearby. Now, de Blasio says anyone from any part of the city can go to any site run by the city and get vaccinated.
All city-run sites will be open for walk-ins as of today for all sites for all age levels. So you can just walk up and get vaccinated.
This change does only apply to vaccine sites run by the city, though de Blasio is asking other sites to do the same thing. New York has now administered more than 6 million vaccines so far. Many across the country are celebrating the verdict in the trial of Derek Chauvin earlier this week, but despite that sense of relief, Damali Keith reports on the toll that the trial and the death of George Floyd have had on Americans' mental health.
If the trauma of racial injustice, police brutality, recent questionable police shootings, and anti-Asian attacks are weighing heavily on you, you are not alone.
The biggest emotion that I experience is just the heartache. Every time I have to see George begging and pleading for his life.
While the pain is certainly greater for George Floyd's family, like his cousin Tara Brown, many are experiencing similar heartbreak that just won't go away.
And now we know that racial trauma can cause things similar to PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Baylor College of Medicine psychiatrist Dr. Asim Shah says, yes, you can be mentally affected by tragic events happening in society.
The biggest problem we have with systemic racism is that if it continues for months, for years, and in some cases it continues for decades, that can cause a long-lasting trauma.
I just think that even though the verdict was right, I feel that I'm pessimistic about the future and the future for my son.
Dr. Shah says blacks may have added trauma regarding racial injustice because of the fear many feel daily regarding potential police encounters.
I saw my sons under that man's knee, my uncle, my brother.
This hits home to me because my father could have been George Floyd. My brother could have been George Floyd.
It was so much tension, well, not only in our city, all around the country.
As a black woman with who's married to a black man, and I have grown black men as children, it's been a very difficult few weeks. It's been a difficult many years, really.
Dr. Shaw says healing begins with awareness and validation, which has happened in a big way over the last few months with people from all walks of life uniting.
Validation means that you need to believe that these things are real. Because the worst thing one can do is to minimize them and say, oh no, it's okay. It's not okay.
If you're feeling mental stress, Dr. Shaw suggests getting a support system. Engage in activism, even if that means just in your community.
If we stand up to these injustices, the world would be a better place and we wouldn't have them.
And Dr. Shaw adds, for those feeling guilt, he says, rather than doing that, learn about cultural sensitivity, treat everyone equally, and importantly, he says, teach your children to do the same and have age-appropriate discussions with them about what's going on.
A day after the guilty verdict in the trial involving George Floyd's murder, another black man has died at the hands of police. Unrest is now growing in North Carolina as protesters are demanding justice for Andrew Brown Jr. Ashley Strohmeyer has new information about the shooting and what is not being revealed so far.
Protests continuing in North Carolina. This after the shooting of Andrew Brown Jr. Wednesday in Elizabeth City. Details surrounding the death of the 42-year-old are still under investigation, but officials revealing new information, saying deputies were serving an arrest warrant when Brown allegedly tried fleeing the scene in his vehicle. Shots were then fired.
This is an arrest warrant surrounding felony drug charges. Mr. Brown was a convicted felon with a history of resisting arrest. Our training and our policies indicate under such circumstances there is a high risk of danger.
The deputies involved have been placed on administrative leave, but advocates are calling for authorities to release body camera footage from the shooting.
There is body camera footage of the attempt to arrest Mr. Brown. The State Bureau of Investigation has this footage, and it can only be released by a judge.
Meanwhile, family members can't believe their loss.
Not a day later, after Derek Chauvin was convicted for killing a black man, and the next day, here's my nephew shot and killed by a police officer, and my nephew didn't deserve it.
As the investigation continues, officials are promising transparency and accountability. Ashley Strohmeyer, Fox News.
Protesters in New York City splattered red paint on statues leading into Central Park. Officers say the vandalism happened Thursday night during a march by demonstrators. People in the group spray painted the back of a bus with black paint and also defaced the outside of a restaurant. Police arrested 6 people but have not released information about the charges or their names. And no word yet on who the group is or what they were protesting. Plans are underway to refurbish the former Star-Gazette building in Elmira. Fresco 201 Incorporated first purchased the former newspaper office back in January. Reese Studios is now looking to convert the building into an art studio. The company says the building needs to go through thorough environmental inspection before they proceed with the redesign. Failing to impress a date can leave you embarrassed, but it's landed one New York man in court. A woman who Robert Chapman matched with on the online dating app Bumble turned him in to the FBI after he bragged to her that he was involved in the Capitol riot. About a week after the January 6th insurrection, he told her, quote, "I did storm the Capitol and made it all the way into Statuary Hall." She replied, quote, "We are not a match," with that new information after previously swiping right on him. Investigators then cross-referenced video of Chapman from body cam footage with his Bumble profile picture. He's now charged with 4 misdemeanors. Chapman has not yet entered a plea. Day 2 of world leaders taking part virtually in a climate summit hosted by the United States. The conversation continued with a push from President Biden that world leaders need to invest in cleaner energy now to protect the future. But Republicans say the pledge will cause America's economy to suffer. Lauren Blanchard has more from Washington.
And today, America is once again stepping into the leadership role.
On the second and final day of President Biden's climate change summit, his focus was on creating renewable energy industry jobs.
This is a moment for all of us to build better economies for our children, our grandchildren, and all of us to thrive.
America's Energy Secretary called on the other leaders to focus on technologies that push clean energy.
We all can remake our economies, and we can build new businesses and put millions and millions of people to work.
That was echoed by the other world leaders already using non-traditional energy sources.
Almost 50% of Denmark's electricity is powered by wind.
Business titans like Bill Gates and Mike Bloomberg weighed in.
The good news is clean energy is increasingly cheaper than coal.
On the first day of the climate summit, President Biden pledged to reduce U.S. carbon emissions by between 50 to 52% by 2030, to reduce coal consumption and help developing nations pay for their own ways to address climate change. But Republicans say the president's push away from traditional energy sources will handicap U.S. businesses and, in turn, American workers. The U.S. is the second worst world polluter. The first, China, which has not pledged the same amount of reductions.
The only country that's likely to comply with its commitment will be the United States of America. They will take us for patsies.
This is not the only climate-focused meeting this year. The United Nations will host its own climate summit this November in Glasgow. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Still ahead tonight, a 10-year-old who suffers from behavioral health problems is aiming to help those like him.
I'm not the only person that has sensory needs and stuff. Other kids have it too.
The coping mechanism he created with others, not just to help him stay calm, but also to keep them safe during interactions with first responders.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Tonight's Big Fox forecast is brought to you by William Mattar. Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Kim Walker. Temperatures today a lot warmer than they were yesterday, so I hope you enjoyed the sunshine and the quiet weather as well, because this weekend we're going to see a little bit of a change. 20 degrees warmer this afternoon in Elmira and Corning, about 19 degrees warmer in Bath and also in Watkins Glen. So here's the situation for tomorrow. I think we'll stay mainly dry. Clouds will start to increase late in the day, but here comes our next storm system. It will be coming out of the southern plains and will continue to strengthen as it moves to the east-northeast. So by Saturday night, as it moves toward the Delmarva area, it is supposed to kick up a lot of winds, and it is going to draw a lot of moisture toward our area as well before it moves into the Atlantic. And so with that extra moisture in place, we do anticipate a few showers, and there could be some drenching rain at times as well for your Saturday night into your Sunday. But during the day on Saturday, no weather concerns. In fact, I think we're going to enjoy temperatures that will be about 5 to 10 degrees warmer than today. 48 degrees at 8 o'clock, 58 at 10. And then by noon, 62 degrees, mid-60s in the afternoon, and then increasing cloud cover late in the afternoon into the evening hours with readings around 59 degrees at around 6 o'clock. So let me show you our future radar. For tonight, we are expecting not a lot to go on, just a few passing clouds in our sky, maybe just a few high-level clouds, and then those clouds will get thicker by the evening. By 1 o'clock in the morning, on Sunday, it looks like places like Cornell and Corning, we could have a few showers. This will be a little bit more widespread in the late morning into the early afternoon on Sunday. By 10 o'clock, it looks like most of this will be pushing away. A few lingering showers will continue through the afternoon into the evening hours, and then by Monday, we are expecting much drier conditions. In fact, as high pressure builds in, warmth will expand, the colder air will retreat. We're talking about highs in the 70s and 80s from Tuesday through your Thursday. So it's going to start to feel a little bit more like summer for the middle of next week. So I think we're going to see 3 seasons of weather in a span of 7 days. In fact, it felt like winter just a few days ago. It's going to feel like spring this weekend, and it's going to feel like summer by next week. So here's a look at your forecast. Temperatures tonight drop down into the 30s. So it's going to be a cold start to the day tomorrow. Highs will be around 65 for Elmira and also in Corning, 64 degrees in Perkinsville. Your 7-day forecast calls for a little bit cooler conditions behind that cold front that will come through. 59 degrees on Monday, but plenty of sunshine. Highs in the 70s and 80s for the middle of the week. And then we have another storm system coming in on Friday, knocking those temperatures back down.
Pandemic weight gain is real, and experts say if you've been avoiding the scale, measure your waistline instead. New guidelines from the American Heart Association suggest too much belly fat, even in people with a healthy weight, could have a link to heart disease. More in today's Health Minute, including what experts recommend to keep your waist trim.
Time for a gut check. Too much fat around the midsection could be linked to heart disease. That's according to new guidelines from the American Heart Association. Even when body mass index falls within the recommended healthy range, researchers say a protruding tummy may be a sign of visceral fat, a dangerous form of fat that wraps itself around organs deep inside the body. Belly fat is different. It's not like the fat that's just under your skin. Researchers say visceral fat raises your risk for heart disease, type 2 diabetes, stroke, and high cholesterol. Experts think that's because visceral fat makes more inflammatory proteins that narrow blood vessels, raise blood pressure, and inflame tissues and organs. According to the CDC, non-pregnant women with a waist size greater than 35 inches and men with a waist size larger than 40 inches are at higher risk. Experts recommend aerobic and strength training to reduce belly fat, as well as eating a well-balanced diet with less sugar and fewer processed foods. For today's Health Minute, I'm Mary Maloney.
A 10-year-old boy in Wisconsin knows what it's like to suffer from behavioral health problems. Now, he's sharing a coping mechanism he created, not just to help others stay calm, but also to stay safe. Gabriella Rusk reports.
From frustrations to fidgeting, Sean Fuquay is familiar with many different feelings.
I'm not the only person that has sensory needs and stuff. Other kids have it too.
The 10-year-old from Sun Prairie wanted to help others like him.
So that's why I created these Keep Calm toolkits to actually help them calm down.
Sean's mom, Courtney Willigal, says her son suffers from several behavioral health disorders.
I was very fearful of responders not knowing how to interact with him and that he may get hurt or he may hurt somebody else.
They created Keep Calm toolkits with toys and games for first responders.
Stressful situations can cause that fight, flight, or freeze tendency, and distraction's one of the biggest tools.
Sun Prairie Police Officer Jesse Davila says he used the kit when responding to a mental health call.
At first, she wasn't very reactive, and then she saw something that she liked and started playing with it.
He says the distractions allowed the girl to open up.
And then she started communicating with me. Now we started doing a dialogue. Now she told me her name, what was going on, and then I asked her about the toys. I was like, how does the toy make you feel? I was like, it makes me feel calm.
And it's just knowing that you've got the tools and the resources available to be able to utilize with someone can take a lot of that angst and anxiety and stress off of a responder.
The family hopes to get more kits in the hands of officers.
Because if 1,000 officers are supported and trained and given the resources, imagine the thousands of people each officer will interact with.
Helping other kids to keep calm.
Yeah, it'd actually really be heartwarming. I really like it.
The 93rd Annual Academy Awards take place this Sunday, and with most movie theaters being closed for most of the last year plus, it's been a bit more confusing this year on where you can actually find the movies that are nominated. David Daniel has our viewing guide.
Please call me Mank. 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 Mank.
Netflix has the most Oscar nominations, led by Mank, up for 10 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Actor for Gary Oldman, and Best Supporting Actress for Amanda Seyfried. Other Oscar contenders you'll find on Netflix include Best Picture nominee The Trial of the Chicago 7, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom with Viola Davis up for Best Actress and Chadwick Boseman up for Best Actor, Pieces of a Woman with Best Actress nominee Vanessa Kirby, and Hillbilly Elegy with Best Supporting Actress nominee Glenn Close.
I can't hear you. Do you understand me? I can't. I'm deaf.
Amazon's top nominee is Sound of Metal, up for 6 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Actor for Riz Ahmed, and Best Supporting Actor for Paul Raci. Amazon is also where you'll find News of the World with 4 Oscar nominations, One Night in Miami with 3, including Best Supporting Actor for Leslie Odom Jr., and Best Supporting Actress nominee Maria Bakalova in Borat's subsequent movie film.
Oh, he's gonna come right through the glass. My dad used to say, what's remembered lives.
You'll find 2 Best Actress nominees on Hulu. Frances McDormand in Nomadland, which is also up for Best Picture and 4 other Oscars, and Andra Day in The U.S. vs. Billie Holiday.
Grandma smells like Korea.
Yeah. 2 Best Picture nominees are on video-on-demand platforms. Minari with Best Actor nominee Stephen Yeun and Best Supporting Actress nominee Yoon Yoo-jung, and Best Actress nominee Carey Mulligan in Promising Young Woman, which is also out on Blu-ray and DVD.
We can heal this whole city. You ain't tell me it was gonna be like this. These ain't no terrorists.
You can even find 2 Best Picture nominees in theaters. Judas and the Black Messiah, featuring Best Supporting Actor nominees Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield, and Best Actor nominee Anthony Hopkins and Best Supporting Actress nominee Olivia Colman in The Father. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
4 astronauts are on their way to the International Space Station aboard a SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft.
3, 2, 1, 0. Mission and liftoff. Godspeed, Endeavour, and Crew 2.
The Falcon 9 rocket lifted off from the Kennedy Space Center early this morning. It marks the first time a SpaceX capsule that has been previously used has carried astronauts. The Endeavour capsule took 2 astronauts to the space station in May. The rocket carrying Endeavour was also previously used on a flight in November. Reusing parts is a cornerstone of SpaceX's business plan to drive down the cost of space travel. A touchdown that's just plain touching. A high school football team gave their teammate with Down syndrome a game to remember. Todd Kazakowicz reports on the big moment.
Tyngsboro High School senior Cam Allard has always wanted to be the QB. And during a game last week against Littleton, he got his chance.
I scored a touchdown.
Fellow senior Tucker Carmichael takes the snap and hands off to Cam.
I've known him since kindergarten. He's always been a competitor, and it was awesome to be able to see him compete on the field with us.
Tyler Ducharme catches the pass.
It was awesome to see him smile and make his day.
It makes me feel good.
The team had been practicing this play, named for him.
The special was called Cam Special.
After the touchdown, Cam celebrated with a Gronk spike and a Cam Newton Superman. Cam Allard and the Tyngsboro Tigers were back on the practice field today. Head coach Rob Bodette arranged with Littleton's coach to make the play happen and teach some valuable life lessons.
From a high school football perspective, I believe truly that it's about making moments or memories and then having lessons learned. And I think this play specifically did both of those things in one moment for all 16 seniors.
Cam's dad says his son's journey to the end zone has been long and challenging.
He's had 28 surgeries. You know, he's got a lot of stuff going on right now. So out there was pretty awesome to see. I can't thank Coach Bodette and the boys all enough to let him do that, you know. It meant the world. And it's going to mean the world to him. He's something he'll never, ever forget, you know.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight, and this next story, well, it might sound more like a children's book than a typical news story. 11 ducklings were trapped in a storm drain on a college campus in California Wednesday. After other efforts to save the babies failed and the ducklings just moved further into the drain, an animal control officer stepped in with a smart idea to play sounds of a mother duck on her phone. One by one, those ducklings were coaxed out of the drain and reunited with their real mother. So, how did anyone know the ducklings were in trouble to begin with? Well, the mother duck was quacking so loudly, it caught the attention of people passing by who quickly realized she was in distress. Thanks for joining us. Watch out for those mama ducks, and have a great weekend.